Ruben Amorim didn't arrive at Manchester United to survive. He arrived to rebuild. And before that rebuild even began, it was over. This isn't a story about a failed manager. It's about a club that keeps repeating the same decision. Manchester United didn't sack a bad manager. They sacked a rebuild. Not because it failed, but because it was never allowed to begin.
I know that my name is not Tuchel, it's not Conte, it's not Mourinho, but I'm the manager of Manchester United. And it's going to be like this for 18 months or when the board decided to change.
When Ruben Amorim arrived at Old Trafford, he didn't promise trophies. He didn't promise instant dominance. He promised something Manchester United hadn't had in over a decade: structure. But before that structure could settle, before his players could return, before his system could breathe, everything collapsed. This is the story of how Manchester United let Ruben Amorim down and how another rebuild died before it ever got time. He didn't promise miracles. What he promised was unity. He asked the fans to stick together. He asked the players to commit to an idea. And he asked the club for something modern football rarely gives anymore: time. Last season, Amorim spoke about moving forward together, about pain before progress, about building something that wouldn't collapse at the first sign of pressure. And for a moment, the club seemed to agree. Sir Jim Ratcliffe made it clear. This was a 3-year project.
Ruben, he needs to demonstrate that he's a great coach over 3 years.
He said football rebuilds do not happen overnight.
Football's not overnight.
No, and as you say, the Alex Ferguson example is exactly that, isn't it?
And you look at Arteta at Arsenal. You know, he had a miserable time for the first couple of years, you know.
Yeah. Ruben Amorim didn't come to Manchester United as a motivational manager. He came as a system manager. At Sporting, his authority was clear. He controlled recruitment, he shaped profiles, he protected the dressing room. At United, that clarity never existed. From day one, Amorim made something clear, quietly but firmly. I am a manager, not just a head coach.
No, guys, I just want to say that I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not to be the coach. And every department, the scouting department, the sport director needs to do their job. I will do mine for 18 months and then we move on.
But Manchester United, still scarred by past failures, never fully handed him the keys. Football decisions were split. Transfers were negotiated above him. Long-term planning was blurred by short-term pressure. And yet, despite all that, he tried. Amorim's Manchester United wasn't meant to be flashy. It was meant to be functional. Compact defensive shape, vertical transitions, intelligent wing play, rotations, not chaos. Players like Ahmad, Mazraoui, Mount, De Ligt, Bruno, they weren't stars in isolation. They were pieces. Slowly, performances improved. Not perfect, but organized. Not dominant, but intentional. And for the first time in years, Manchester United looked like a team being built, not patched. Then January arrived. No rebuild survives losing its engine mid-season. AFCON didn't just take players from Manchester United, it took balance. Key profiles disappeared.
It was bad luck to lose Ahmad, Brian especially, and Bruno at the same time. They had more creation in the opportunities than the rest of the team. If you lose the 3 of them at the same time, any team in the world will struggle.
Rhythm vanished, depth was exposed. Matches that once felt controlled suddenly felt fragile. Amorim adapted. He simplified patterns. He protected the shape. But football doesn't pause for context. Losses came, pressure rose, and worse, the injuries began. Every rebuild has a spine. Manchester United's spine collapsed in weeks. Mason Mount, gone. Bruno Fernandes, injured. Matthijs de Ligt, defensive leader, sidelined. This wasn't rotation pain. This was structural damage. Suddenly, no press leader, no midfield controller, no defensive organizer. Amorim wasn't coaching form anymore. he was managing survival. Here's where the narrative turned toxic. United weren't collapsing tactically, they were collapsing physically. Performances weren't disasters, they were incomplete. Control without penetration, structure without execution. But football discourse is brutal. Nobody talks about who is missing, who is rushed back, who is playing through pain. They talk about results. And the results stopped protecting Amorim. January was supposed to save the rebuild. It didn't. Amorim didn't ask for stars. He asked for profiles. Instead, he got delays, compromises, short-term decisions. He was still responsible for results, without control over solutions. That's not management, that's exposure. Once alignment is lost at Manchester United, the ending is never dramatic. It is quiet, administrative, inevitable. By the time the decision was made, Ruben Amorim was no longer being judged on football, he was being judged on comfort. Comfort for executives, comfort for narratives. Comfort for a club desperate to stop explaining itself. Meetings intensified, language shifted. The conversation moved from "how do we support this rebuild" to "can we afford to continue this?" Not afford in money, but in patience. And patience has become Manchester United's rarest resource. Amorim, for his part, didn't change. He didn't abandon his system. He didn't plead publicly. He didn't soften his stance. That was his greatest strength, and ultimately his undoing. Because modern Manchester United doesn't reward resistance, it rewards adaptability to chaos. When the final decision came, it wasn't framed as failure. It was framed as necessity, a reset, a new direction. A familiar statement fans had heard too many times before. There was no outrage inside the club, no dressing room revolt, no dramatic fallout. Just a quiet confirmation that the rebuild had ended, not because it collapsed, but because it asked for more time than the club was willing to give. Ruben Amorim left the same way he arrived, with dignity, with clarity, and with a vision that never reached its second chapter. The players moved on, the fixtures continued, the cycle resumed, and Manchester United once again stood at the beginning, pretending it was the end. When the announcement came, it felt inevitable. Not because it was right, but because Manchester United has done this before. A manager arrives with a plan. The plan is tested by chaos. The chaos is blamed on the manager, and the cycle resets. Ruben Amorim didn't lose the dressing room. He lost time. Manchester United didn't fail because of Ruben Amorim. They failed because they still don't know what they want. A coach, a manager, a rebuild, or results now? Until that question is answered, no rebuild will survive. Not Amorim's, not the next one, not the one after that. Manchester United didn't fail Ruben Amorim because he lacked ability. They failed him because they still don't know what they are. A club torn between long-term rebuilding and short-term reassurance, between structure and reaction. Until that identity is resolved, no manager will succeed here. Not with ideas, not with patience, not with time. Ruben Amorim didn't lose at Manchester United. He simply ran out of something no rebuild here is ever given: time.